Welcome, everybody. I am joined here by the one and only Paul Dunn. Paul, why don't you introduce yourself?
The one and only is interesting. Actually, there is, if you go searching for Paul Dunn on the web, you'll find there are a number of, interesting enough, Mormon missionaries, which I am not, online. So yes, first of all, I am Paul Dunn. I'm so thrilled to be here with you, Marvin. Hopefully I have some things to bring to everybody here because, when people usually introduce me, they talk about, all of the work that I've done. I think currently something like 226,000 companies or so are using the insights that we've been talking about. And of course, as you know, one of my big things is making sure that people get on purpose, and they express that in interesting ways. Hence, for these last, last 13 years, I've been very heavily involved in creating a movement, which is called B1G1, Business for Good. And there are now, 3,000 companies right around the world who are using B1G1 to create better teams, to shift the spirit of their business, and ultimately to transform their businesses. I'm a happy guy. And I say that on the basis that I just consider myself so lucky and so privileged to be able to do that.
Great, thanks, Paul. So I met you, I think, for the first time in Bali at the Action Coach Conference, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It was a long time ago. And one of the things that really got me since then, and we've spoken a few times since then, is your own purpose about helping other people connect with their purpose, their why. Can you tell me a little bit about your personal journey about connecting with your purpose on that?
That's a great question. The interesting thing about purpose is there's a lot of work that suggests that one day you wake up and you find your purpose and that's it for the rest of your life. I don't think that's true, and it's certainly not true in my case. If 13 years ago you would have said to me, what gets you up every morning, Paul? I would have said, it's to add value to the people that I'm privileged to serve. At that point, I was running a business that had we were doing all of the marketing work for some 23,000 small to medium scale businesses. So what got me up in the morning was, to add enormous value to those people and to have fun doing it. That was it. And those were the only two values. Notice it's not, I'm going to check the money or anything like that. It's a different thing. And then one day, and you are aware of what that day was. It was in 2006. And if you go in the calendar, there were not too many interesting things happening in 2006. But I really came face to face with the impact that something that happened in 2004 did. And that, of course, was the Asian tsunami. And without going into the whole story, because that would take a long time, it was the first time that I recognized that we as entrepreneurs, we in business have a real sense of obligation to recognize that we're just so privileged to be able to do what we do. And yet there are others who, through no fault of their own, are in circumstances that we would find very, very challenging. And what's interesting about those people who are in those circumstances, they tend to smile a lot more than we do, which is sort of interesting too. And so you know how it is once you get yourself in that mindset. It's like it's like, if someone listening to us now were to go out and buy a new car, for example. Let's say it was, just for the sake of discussion, it was a Mercedes. Doesn't matter what it is, but let's just say it was a Mercedes. Then all of a sudden, you drive it out of the garage, and there you see that same model car coming towards you, and you go, "Oh my gosh, everybody's got the same car." No, those things were always there. It's just that your reticular activation system is now seeing them, or it wasn't seeing them before. So once you get this idea that there's more to life, there is something bigger, right? Once you get that, then you can't help but make that a part of who you are. And the moment you get to make that a part of who you are, you just connect. You see things that are there, that have always been there, but you've never seen. And that creates an ecosystem, you know. So right now, as I think I said, you know, B1G1, Business for Good is what, 3,000 or so, I think a bit more than that now, of business owners right around the world who are adding purpose each and every day, or living their purpose each and every day. The way we like to say it is every second, every day, and in every way. That, of course, what's interesting about that is that there's so much work on this that goes on. You know, I saw an article just recently from Harvard Business Review. It was not that long ago. I think about 3 or 4 months ago, and the article said this. This is Harvard Business Review. It said this, and I'll give you another little twist on this as we have a look at it. It said purpose-driven companies make more money, they have more engaged employees, they have more loyal customers, and they're better at innovation and transformational change. And then, you know, I mean, you and I know that, right? But then more and more people are getting that these days. And when I say getting it, I don't mean sort of green purpose washing. I mean really getting it. And so just 2 weeks ago, a report came out from, it was called the Deloitte 2020. And here's a lady called Cynthia Bell, or there was a lady called Cynthia Bell in that, and she said this, and again, it comes from Deloitte, so hopefully one can believe it, right? It says businesses with purpose, she quantifies it, grow faster, outpacing companies with no purpose, get this, Marvin, by more than 100%. And wow. Then she says, and you know this obviously, but because of the work that you do, she says, purpose matters to employees too. People want to find meaning in their work. So they're attracted to companies with purpose. And get this, they are 3 times more likely to stay there. And then she says, and the Holy Grail, she refers to this as a Holy Grail. She says, people are twice as productive when they're inspired by the company that they work for. So just put all of those numbers together and you get, oh my gosh, we really better find out a little bit more about what this purpose thing is and maybe get on it, right?
Yeah. And Paul, I mean, you mentioned you work with thousands of companies now that are part of the B1G1 ecosystem, and they are, I mean, I'm sure they're spanning multiple industries, right? Restaurants and what have you. What would you say are some of the bigger shifts that you are seeing in those companies in particular that are really connected with their sense of purpose, given what's happening with the whole pandemic right now?
Oh, well, that's a great question, isn't it? Particularly right now. Well, you're seeing that I mean, some companies. Okay, let's just take a simple example, right?
Okay.
Let's just take work from home. Let's just take that as like a thing, right? Which is happening right now. You find some companies, and I hesitate to mention the name of this company because, I probably shouldn't, so I won't. But it is a very well-known company, right? Very well-known, hugely well-known. And so here's this crisis, right? And everybody's got to work from home. So they send a letter. I've got the letter to their team members that says this: we have a policy where people cannot work from home who have been with us for less than a year. Right? I mean, that's a stupid, less than a year. I mean, that's such a stupid policy anyway, but reluctantly, right, we have to change that because it's now been mandated that you can work from home. I mean, that's just crazy, right? And so that sort of gets you as to where their focus is, right? And their focus is not on purpose, not on you and I as team members, not on you and I as creating an amazing organization, not on you and I recognizing, for example, if we're team members or employees, then usually it's us that's face to face with the customer. And understanding that if it's us that's face to face with the customer, then you, meaning, you know, the boss, better be face to face or better be providing all of that great stuff where we feel great about doing what we do. And purpose is, you know, the way of doing that. It really is.
And what are some of the best practices that you've seen in terms of engaging with these people that are working from home now? Because it is a big culture change for everybody. It's the new normal, and we don't know how long this is going to last. So what have you seen worked?
Oh, well, funny thing. Let me give you a personal experience and then sort of build on that. One of the things in B1G1 that we have had in place for probably about 18 months, maybe 2 years now, is we have a thing called Focus Friday. And Focus Friday is where, you know, there's a small team in B1G1. And as you know, you have to serve customers or members, but at the same time, you have to innovate and find, you know, new ways to do things and so on. And what was happening is the people who, which is everybody who had, you know, all these great innovation projects, it was a bit hard for them to do in the office because, you know, I'm going around saying, how are you going today? You know, interrupting them and all that kind of stuff. So the team said, why don't we have Focus Friday, and where we will go, we will be at home and we'll be working. You can still get us, you know, on Slack or whatever, but we'll be at home working on the projects and we'll feel really great about it and so on. So, okay, let's do that. So then when the government, so we were used to doing it. So when the government then suggested, and currently in Singapore, it is a suggestion as opposed to a must, for most of us anyway, that we should work from home. And we said, yeah, well, we know how to do that. And knowing how to do that, coincidentally, means that every day in B1G1, ever since the dawn of time, we've had at 9:50 every morning, we have a team meeting, and it's invited. You can't escape that. I mean, there are certain circumstances, you know, where you can, but and it's I guess some people would call it a team huddle. I don't particularly like that term, but anyway, it's a team get together where we briefly review the company's value very briefly. We have someone talk about what's happened over the last week in their life, which leads to these values, and then we go through, you know, what's each one of us doing today, what are the projects we're working on, how are they looking, and you're able to say, you know, I need some help with this or something like that. Anyway, and those things obviously work really well when you're together as a team, right? As in face to face. But you know what? They work better like this. They really do, because you have to pay attention, right? Because everybody's looking at you in a Zoom meeting. You know, you can't sort of, you know, you got to look at the watch or something. I mean, it's like, so they work better. And we've even extended that on not every day, but on many days to actually have virtual lunch together. I mean, it's just like, and I was hearing this morning on a call that I was on that someone has got virtual coffee sessions, you know, with their team. So one of the things that I'm seeing, which is really bizarre, but when you think about it, it's not bizarre. But if we'd have said this 4 weeks ago, it was, oh, you're crazy. That's crazy, right? But what we're actually seeing is that working virtually, now there are some challenges with working virtually, right? And you've got to have a rhythm and all that kind of stuff. But forgetting that for a minute, working virtually is really fabulous because you are actually more connected with people who now want to connect with you because they're isolated anyway. So what's happening is, and we're saving, you know, if you think about the saving in travel time and all of that kind of stuff that goes on. So we're seeing this as and by the way, I'm not saying that everything is rosy and, you know, Pollyanna and let's look at it through rose-colored glasses, because we've never seen a time like this. I mean, we never have seen a time like this. But I think what's happening, I think there's certain milestones that have happened that, in relation to purpose. I think one of the most significant ones was in 2015, in September 2015, when the world body, the UN, launched the Sustainable Development Goals, or the global goals. And I think what's great about those global goals, those 17 targets, with 169 things underneath them, they give us a common language now, that we have to do by 2030. Mm-hmm. And, everybody who's in B1G1 understands those global goals and works towards them. So that's a really interesting milestone. But I think, and then I think there's another milestone, which we go back even further, which is 2008, when, there was this sort of global financial crisis and all that kind of stuff. And if you think about that, and you go just before 2008, then that was when we had, the Wolf of Wall Street, greed is good, all of that kind of stuff, right? And we learned, to our sorrow, that doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And so that, for me, was, I think, the start of people going, oh, there has to be another way. And then linking that with purpose, and then seeing that become like a hockey stick thing, where now, you get the top 160 companies in the world in this particular group, and they say, you know what, the vision that we had and the mission that we had was wrong. I mean, this is the top 160 companies in the world. Top. I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars, right? And they're saying it was wrong, right? And why was it wrong? Answer: because it profit first. Interesting, right? Very interesting, right? Now, by the way, don't take from that you should not make a profit. Obviously, you should. You really, really should. So I think that we will look back. Let's say we're having this meeting a year from now, and I think we'll look back and we'll say, wasn't the beginning of 2020, or depending on how you look at it, or the end of 2019, wasn't that a fascinating time? Wasn't that a milestone? Wasn't that something that took us, or that made us realize that we're actually all connected, that we all are one? Now, for many of us, that sounds like woo, 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 but it's not. It's real. It is real. And I think so many business leaders are now saying, this is a challenging time, right? We all understand this is a challenging time. We all understand that when we get through this, which we all understand that we will get through it. But my take on it, Ivan, is that when we get through it, it will look unlike anything we've ever seen, right? It'll be like just a new way of doing things. And so I think it's an incredibly exciting time. And again, I say that not to minimize, all the awful things that are happening, that we wish weren't happening, that we wish didn't have to happen for us to learn these lessons. But it's for me, it's and you know what? It's also interesting that I'm seeing that people are really understanding now that we can't do it alone. We can't. We really need to reach out. We really need to partner. We really need to collaborate. We really need to do all of those sorts of things. You know what else is happening? On 2 calls this morning with some rather interesting companies, you ask them, well, how are you finding, this is so interesting, right? How are you finding your way through this? Okay. There are 2 answers to that question that we got this morning. And the first one is, I think, going to surprise some of us on this call. They said, we are asking our team members. Think about that for a minute. Just think about that, right? We're asking our team members. And in order for us to ask our team members, we have to be transparent with our team members as to what's happening. And by the way, on purpose companies are always transparent anyway. So they don't have the issue. And then, of course, the second thing they're saying is we're learning from our customers. We're listening to the issues that they have. We're listening to the problems that they're trying to solve. And we're realizing that we may not have the one answer to that, but we realize that when we partner in appropriate ways, because we know people who they need to know, it just gets very, very interesting. And I think we're going to see more and more and more of that.
Yeah, those are two really key insights there. Listening to the team members and having the online presence, the one-on-one, the platform that allows them to actually listen. This is the blessing that it gives us to engage with the team, and then obviously to listen to the customers more, as opposed to we know everything, which tends to happen when things are going well, right?
So exactly.
I'm very mindful of your time and your commitments, Paul. So I've got one final question for you, which might be a big one, knowing you as well. But what would be the top, 1, 2, 3 tips you would be able to give to entrepreneurs or executives who are at home, finding themselves having to motivate a remote team, having to look after children doing home learning, and spouses and families who may not be in the same household? What would be your top 3 tips or so?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned kids at home. I found one. I found a great resource yesterday, which is an obvious resource actually, and for kids. So this bit's for kids, right? And it's Google Earth. And if you go to Google Earth, right, you will find the most amazing virtual tours, not just of museums all around the world. You can actually go in the Louvre as if you were there, right? You can go around all the science museums, look at that, get this virtual tour. But interestingly, there are all these virtual tours of national parks, like amazing national parks where you can go through, and there's all sorts of, as you would imagine with Google, they do it very well, all sorts of questions and comments. So there's one for kids. In relation to us as individuals, I think it's really interesting for us to, it's really interesting how we spend our time right now. And the question is, what do we do? Because we've got to get that we're in control of this. We are in control of this, right? In the sense that we're in control of ourselves. And that's the one thing we can control here. So what can we control? We can control what we listen to. We do not have to be in front of CNN or whatever it is. And this is not a, anti-CNN thing. I mean, should you sort of catch up with the news? Yeah, sure you should. Well, right now you probably should, because you don't know whether you can go out or stay at home. But there are all sorts of places where you can go to find that out, and you find that out in 5 minutes. The other thing I think that I'm learning, and it really is a massive learning for me actually, is when you're working on stuff, whatever that stuff is, you tend to, until now, you tend to do that alone, because you sort of come away from, the quote unquote stresses of the day, and there you are, you're in your little office, and you're able to think and all of that kind of stuff, right? But the thing that I've really got from the last 3 days, where are we today? Yeah, last 4 days, is just reaching out, and connecting, and just basically saying, what's going on for you? Oh, this is what's going on for me. I just had a call from it was like a message on the phone, right? I sent someone a message this morning, funnily enough, letting them know that their giving on B1G1, they just hit 1.3 million giving impacts, right? This particular company. And so I just messaged them, hey, thought you'd love to know, and yeah. And then I got a call back. And this is a company that is in the event space. Okay, so you can imagine what's happened to their business, right? Yeah. Right. And they said, we just conducted 2 of the most important meetings in our life. And they were entirely virtual meetings. And, they were using Zoom so they could use breakout rooms and all of those kind of things. And here's what they said. the feedback, and they've been in business 12 years, okay? And they said, the feedback from those meetings is so surpasses anything else that we've ever seen. And this is an exact quote, that as a result of that, we now see our business as a 50x multiplier. Wow. From in other words, from moving from the way we did it, hiring venues, getting the coffee, all of those sorts of things, to connecting and using the technology in a really cool way. And as you know, Zoom is a very cool thing with the breakout rooms and all of that kind of stuff. And the guy was just, and this guy is, he's been around, right? And he was just, I very rarely heard him so elated. And I'm seeing that, as I said to you, in these last 3 to 4 days, I'm seeing that frequently. So the more that I am able, and you're in this, by the way, as I said to you, yeah, let's connect, right? The more that we connect in this kind of way and use this space for that connection, which is probably why we're here. As Brene Brown, who says, connection is why we're here, right? It's what, and she's right. That's absolutely correct. And so this is a great time to be able to do that. And at the same time, to do that purposefully, to really take a look at, what's going on, where your vision is now. I think I shared with you that a quote that says, when your vision becomes more powerful than your memory, your future becomes more powerful than your past. And so this is an opportunity to grab that, and then to try and figure out where we're heading and where we're heading with purpose. The other day I was just playing with doing. By the way, but this is just a final thing on this. That in this times, it means we also have to kind of reset the message, if that makes sense, right? And I was doing some stuff on that actually a little while ago, and I think that what we've got here now is kind of like an opportunity to reset, So I was doing this slide, and I love doing slides. I didn't sort of think in slides, right? And so this particular slide said reset, and then underneath it says doing great things. So yes, it's reset, looking at doing great things. And then it says there are 3 things that we need to focus on: our leadership, our values, and our humanity. And all of those things are encompassed in purpose. So it's a very exciting time.
Powerful. Thank you so much for your time, Paul. I know you've got other engagements, and thank you for making the time for us and to be able to share your message to the people of Indonesia and whoever else may listen to the recording. So,
well, thank you for making the space available. It's just, it's just stunning that you do. So thank you.
Yeah. So everybody, I highly recommend that you check out B1G1. The website is, Paul?
B1G1.com, which is kind of interesting. Simple. Yeah, and by the way, just so you're clear on that, it's the letter B followed by the number 1, not O-N-E, but B1G1. The letter G and then a 1. People in England for some reason call it Biggie, but it's actually B1G1. So,
and it stands for buy one, give one. It's all about collaboration. It's all about giving. It's all about coming together as one. So I think this is the time for us to all do that. Thank you so much for your time, Paul.
Marvin, thank you. It's been a privilege. Bye. Bye-bye.